This video is sponsored by 3D Printing Canada. What is up, makers? Welcome back to the lab. Today we have something kind of special. Our friends over at 3D Printing Canada asked me if I wanted to review the Wham Bam build plate system on my Creality Ender 3, and of course I said yes. If you haven't caught the other videos where I've mentioned it, 3D Printing Canada, I found them by accident. These are an amazing bunch of people. Their prices are good, their shipping is fast, they're located in Canada. Everything about them so far has been awesome. Every question I've asked has been answered. So, disclaimer right off the bat, yes, 3D Printing Canada provided me this kit for free for the purpose of review. The opinions I share are my own. I am not paid for a positive review. I will tell you exactly what I think of the product. Now, as it comes to build systems, or build plate systems, I have some experience. As I've looked for the perfect solution to the problem for as many different types of printing that I do. I have the Creality magnetic base, and I have glass on one side with spray adhesive, on the other it's just your flat pane of glass. I have another piece of glass that has the Overture build surface that came with that filament that I reviewed a while ago. And on the other side I have the textured glass. And I have the original Creality build plate. None of these have solved the issue perfectly. I find myself switching between them a lot depending on what I want to do. Now, this build system promises to change that. So, well, I'm not usually an unboxer. Let's go ahead and kind of dive right into what's in here. Oh, packing peanuts. Hi, styrofoam. I haven't found a good way to reuse the shipping peanuts other than shipping other products out. If you have any suggestions, comments down below. Okay, it looks like there's just another box on the bottom. Let's see if I can just lift that up. And not get these shipping peanuts everywhere. Is there anything else in the box? No. That is all that is in the box. Get the box out of the way. Alright. So, as I said, just make sure you can see what I think you can see. We have the Wham Bam flexible build system. This is the 235mm by 235mm. It's the double full kit. This is available for about $160 at 3D Printing Canada. I obviously chose the kit for the Ender 3 because that's the printer that I have. Alright, so we have some steel wool, which is for cleaning the build surface before attaching it to the actual machine. And we have a package that undoubtedly contains the build surface. Build surfaces, I should say. There's two. Let's go ahead and take a peek at this. There's a scalpel blade. That's not dangerous at all. Now we have a paper folder. I do like that all the packaging is cardboard. That means it's recyclable and it doesn't necessarily destroy our environment. That is a nice touch. And we have inside of our envelope here. Ooh. Oh, that's pretty. That is pretty. And here are the stickers that they promised that would be part of this. It's actually listed on the table of contents for the package when you buy it. The Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am stickers. And an installation guide and what's in here. So we have 2 steel plates, we have 2 PEX surfaces, and we have 1 magnetic base. The PEX surface is going to be interesting. I've read a lot about it. I've often thought I should try it, but it never really came up as something to do. Now, I definitely have the opportunity. Thank you again, 3D Printing Canada. So we have the metal flex surface, right, which has the beautiful Wham Bam logo on it. Let's see if I can get you a good close-up view of that. Okay. Then we have the PEX surface, right, which again is kind of a stick-down surface. Another flexible build plate, another PEX layer, and then the Wham Bam magnetic plate. Now this is interesting. This is a lot thicker and a lot heavier duty than the Creality one. Like, it weighs probably 3 times as much as the Creality one. Now, the Creality one is good up to 80 degrees. Standard magnet starts to lose magnetism at 80 degrees. This claims to go up to, I think it's 140, but we'll check the website to be sure. But it goes much higher, so printing some of the more exotic filaments with this won't cause the base to demagnetize, which is very important. Because even on the magnetic bed, I still use binder clips on the Ender 3 with the Creality magnetic bed because I don't trust it not to let go. Alright, so one of the interesting things that I'm seeing here, on all of the build surfaces that I have, let's take a look under the microscope here. And we'll take a look at the original Creality bed first. And if I can get focus on the microscope, you can see the texturized pattern that the print is designed to grab onto. Now obviously when this surface heats up, that expands, and then when the print prints onto there and grabs onto that, as this cools, it shrinks and the print's supposed to pop off. Doesn't really work that way. You usually have to grab a spatula and pry the thing off, but that's the premise of how most of these print surfaces work, aside from glass with an adhesive on it, whether that be a glue stick or spray adhesive. Right, those work very much like you think they should. If we take a look at the Overture bed, focus in place here, you can once again see a very similar texture pattern to the Creality bed. Right, if we look on the other side where we have the texturized glass, you can see there's all kinds of divots in the texturized glass, which is designed to, again, give the print something to adhere to in order to have a nice sticky surface that your print adheres to. Now the Wham Bam system, yeah, I was thinking would have a texture to it, but oh, microscopically it does. Microscopically it does. But this is a very different type of texture. As smooth as it looks normally, it really is texturized. That might be part of its magic. The next step is to follow the instructions and install this on my Creality Ender 3. So here we are at my Ender 3. You can see that I've laid out everything on top of it, the PEX sheet, the beautiful, beautiful metal build plate, and the really, really thick Wham Bam magnet. We're going to use a few things to get this done. You can see I've gone ahead and removed the Creality magnetic base that I had before, but this hotbed is a little dirty, so I'm going to use some isopropanol rubbing alcohol and some jade cloth shop towels, and let's see if we can get this ready to put the sticker down. Again, just use rubbing alcohol. You can get it at any pharmacy, and some 000 steel wool that came with the Wham Bam kit. We're going to use it to kind of just get all of the debris off of the heated bed. That way we have a nice clean surface for the magnet to attach to. I'm going to come back, and as I said with the J-cloth, right, we're just going to make sure that A, it's dry, and B, remove any dust that may remain. And you can use paper towel for this if you don't have J-cloth. I tend to keep the J-cloth around just because it's a reusable paper towel in most cases, so it gets you light. Alright, so once that's clean, we're going to line the bed up, or the magnetic base up with the bed, and just make sure that it fits. It should. This is the right kit for the Ender 3, so it should be the exact right size. So we're going to flip it over. We're going to peel back between 25 and 30 millimeters is how I like to do this. So we get, as I said, 25 to 30 millimeters back. Right, and then I actually like to crease the back part so that it doesn't want to flip back over and stick to it. Makes it a little easier. If you've ever done like vinyl signage, this will seem very familiar to you when you try to do the layout and the outlines of it. Try to get it as perfect as you can. I'm using the glue stick I hopefully will never need again in order to get air bubbles and air pockets out from underneath the magnetic base here. And then we just make sure that everything's nice and lined up the way we want it, and we just start pulling the back cover out a little bit at a time. I usually go anywhere between 50 and 60 millimeters at a time, so 5 or 6 centimeters. I don't know what that measurement is for south of the border, but I'm guessing maybe 2 inches at a time. And again, just smoothing it down with a surface like I'm using a glue stick. It's nice and round and it will push any air pockets out. I'm always trying to move towards the edge, not towards the middle. That's very, very important, right? Because you don't want to push air pockets deeper or debris deeper behind the magnetic base. And we just rinse and repeat until we've made it all the way through the build plate. I'm going to do one once over the entire surface here just to make sure that I don't see any debris or any air bubbles in the thing, and we'll see if the bed snaps in place. Wow, that's a strong magnet. Really grabs really tightly. It doesn't index 100% on its own. One thing the reality about it is it would index on its own, but once you get it, it's nice. Alright, so now we're going to need to clean the flex plate surface so that we can get the PEX layer in place. It seems almost a shame to cover up such a beautiful surface. I love the mirror finish, but again, some isopropanol rubbing alcohol on a J-cloth just to make sure that we remove any of the oil fingers or anybody else who may have touched it, and make sure there's no dust on the build plate as we adhere the next layer. See the alcohol evaporating, and once it's evaporated and once it's dry, we can grab the PEX sheet. We're going to do virtually the same thing over again for this installation. Again, lay the PEX sheet over the flex plate, make sure that it's the right size, and then we're going to peel off the 3M coating at the back. Now this is a sandwich. There are 2 coatings. We want to make sure that it's the 3M coating, the one with the really strong adhesive, right? And we're going to move that back again like the last time, 25 to 30 millimeters, 2.5 to 3 centimeters. All right, and then we're going to crease it. Now, of all the times that we do this, this is the one where making sure that there's no air pockets is the most important. And so we're going to go ahead and we'll use our the same technique as before, line it up with our fingertip and lay it down because it has that double layer of insulation for the adhesive on the back where it's exposed. You can lay it flat at the front just to kind of get the tap down the back end, and then bring either the glue stick or the credit card or whatever you're going to use to force the air bubbles out. And then, just like before, we slowly pull the backing forward. And again, I'm always moving towards an edge, because I want to make sure that as much of the air bubbles that can be taken out of this are taken out of this, and that it's 100% contact with the build surface. I apologize, the shiny surface of the build plate is giving my camera a lot of issues with figuring out what to focus on. Because the PEX is clear, what you're seeing with the streaking and the marks underneath is actually just the 3M adhesive. The PEX itself is a completely clear layer, and the protective sheet on the top of PEX right now is a completely clear layer. So we're looking to try and not see air bubbles in any way. You can see I switched to an old card that seems to be working a little better with the PEX to get the air bubbles out the way that I want it to be. You can obviously see the change where it has bonded well with the plate. And now we'll just quickly finish this off. Alright, and once you get this completely adhered to the flex plate, there is one last step, and that is to remove the protective covering on the other side of the PEX sheet, which we'll get to in a second. And we'll lift the build plate off, grab the corner, and just peel up the protective layer covering the actual PEX underneath. This can take a little bit of effort. Thankfully, I have some nails at this point. COVID. And then we place it back onto our print bed, and we're almost ready to go. Next step, I'm going to turn on the printer, and I'm going to heat it. I love how even through the PEX layer, it's so reflective. Wham Bam has done a wonderful job with the aesthetics of this product. Again, I want to thank 3D Printing Canada for sending it to me. Yeah. I can't wait to actually get printing on it. After the bed is warm, we obviously tell it to home. We're going to have to do a whole new bed level routine, obviously, because the entire surface of the entire print surface has changed at this point. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to make you watch that entire process. I'm going to do that. I'm going to use this. I'm going to try to throw just about every type of filament I have and every type of print I have at it. For you, a couple of seconds will pass. For me, it'll be about a week, right? And I'll wrap up with my final thoughts on how I believe this surface functions and works. All right. So for you, it's been a couple of minutes. For me, it's actually been 2 weeks. So, final thoughts and conclusions. It's a good build surface. I've thrown just about everything I have at this build surface. Every material I can think of, every type of print, from very complicated to your standard print to mechanical where dimensional accuracy is very important. I've thrown PETG, I've thrown PLA, I've thrown PC+, I've thrown ABS, I've thrown TPU, I've thrown every filament I have at this stuff. And it has been good at everything. Not great at any one in particular, but good at everything. Which is unique, because I'm used to having to switch build plates depending on what I want to do. And with this system, I don't think I'm going to have to do that anymore. I wanted to take a look at some of the prints I've done just to call your attention to what I'm talking about. This was the very first print I did with this build system. This is a multicolored print, dual layer, It's actually 4 prints. On a single nozzle, Ender 3, using Z-Hop and a bunch of other custom G-code techniques that I've been working with. But is it perfect? No, but it's as close as I've ever gotten with this. But what I wanted to do is call your attention to just how shiny the surface of this is. I know other reviewers have mentioned this, but the build plate puts such a shiny surface on the bottom part, and I almost want to always print whatever I want to be the most predominant surface of a print on bottom. It's kind of new. Kind of reverse thinking. Going to change how I model 3D things that I work with, but yeah, that is just an incredibly shiny surface off of a print with just standard PLA. ABS was another one I wanted to throw at you. I found this with ABS, with PATG, with PC Plus. I printed on my Ender 3, which is that printer over there, which you can see doesn't have an enclosure. And look at the bottom. There is no warping that I can tell. So, no enclosure, ABS printed without warping. The only custom thing I kind of did to improve bed adhesion was I changed from a skirt to a brim. And then it seems to be able to print with filaments that are known to easily warp without actually warping, which is kind of cool. Then I moved on to mechanical prints. This button is about 5 different parts with 3 different filaments in it for the varying types of properties that it has. It has TPU for the button on the outside, it has ABS on the inside, and it has PLA on the outside. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but definitely clicky, definitely working. Dimensional accuracy is good. The only thing I still have an issue with is the horizontal hole expansion. I know that's with Cura, and I've gotten it down to about 1/4 millimeter, maybe 1/2 millimeter. I'm still working it out. I still have to take a drill bit and drill out the holes, which drives me nuts. Right? It should be perfect. I don't know if Simplify 3D does this any better, but I'm not about to spend $250 on a slicer to find out. That makes no sense. So, at the end of the day, would I recommend the build surface? Yes. Is it the cheapest build surface out there? No. Is it the greatest at anything? Nah. But it is good at everything. So, $160 seems a little steep, but keep in mind this is the dual kit. You get your magnetic base, you get 2 flex plates, you get 2 layers of the PEX surface, and if you get to the point that you need to replace the PEX surface, it's $29 for a new PEX surface. These are Canadian dollars, so that is a decent price. The only downside I would say, well, not even really downside, just kind of trap for new players. Make sure that you, if you wouldn't normally use a heated bed, use a heated bed. If you would normally use a heated bed, add at least 10 degrees to the temperature that you would normally heat with, and be very careful about your probe Z offset. If the head crashes into the bed, it's going to destroy the PEX layer. You'll still be able to print around it, but it's not an easily recoverable thing. So it's not like a lot of other build surfaces where it just gets pushed and nothing really happens. This literally destroys the PEX layer. Now that's not a property of the Wham Bam system. That's a property of PEX. But at the end of the day, awesome build surface. I once again want to thank 3D Printing Canada for sending it to me for a review. If you would like to get your own Wham Bam kit, 3D Printing Canada, the links to their main page and to the product page are in the description down below. Those are not affiliate links. I do not get anything if you buy it through those links. That is one of the requirements that I will always have for my reviews. I don't want to be compensated in any way for sales that are generated from them, because that gives me an advantage to recommend things that might not be 100%. I will never recommend a product that I wouldn't want to use myself. So, I want to thank you for joining me in the lab today. I hope you learned something, and we'll speak again soon.